Another night of pounding as the Gaza conflict enters its sixth day, and President Obama cautions against an Israeli ground invasion. Obama, meanwhile, becomes the first serving US president to visit Myanmar, praising the government's progress in shaking off military rule, but pressing for more reform. And in business, commodities trader Glencore is set to clinch its $30 billion takeover of Xstrata. Shareholders in both companies vote Tuesday, with an EU competition ruling due later in the week. We start, though, with the conflict in Gaza. International pressure for a ceasefire is intensifying. The deadliest single incident in the conflict has claimed the lives of at least 11 Palestinian civilians, including 4 children. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is due in Cairo. Israel, too, has sent a delegation, but 75,000 Israeli troops remain on high alert. Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel is preparing for a significant expansion in its Gaza offensive. The conflict in the Middle East, the civil war in Syria, talk of fiscal cliffs and strained budget talks in Europe, all taking their toll on investor confidence. As we saw Friday, the price of oil and other commodities is on the rise, threatening a weak and fragile global recovery. And on those budget talks, the Financial Times says EU officials are planning to create a long-term budget without the participation of the UK. Prospects for 27-wide deal have dimmed in recent days. The FT says diplomats have concluded it'll be impossible to accommodate the UK's demands. Let's talk with Mike Ingram, market commentator, BGC Partners. Morning to you, Mike.
Morning, Axel.
Let's kick it off with the budget, the EU budget. How does an investor play this supposed spat between the UK and the rest of Europe?
Well, I think that the initial reaction is basically to stay away from Europe, although I think that probably the rhetoric doesn't match the reality. I mean, the way you read it in the press is as though Britain has an isolated position. That's certainly not the case, and there are a number of countries within Europe, such as Slovakia and the Netherlands, etc., who do not want to contribute more to the EU budget, but they're quite happy to let Britain do the running. And at the end of the day, a freeze in real terms is not unreasonable at all. The EU is forcing budget cuts in real terms along much of the Eurozone. We're having cuts here in the UK. Why on earth should the UK be asked to contribute more money to a budget which hasn't had a successful audit in 15 years?
More generally, we've got the fiscal cliff, of course, as we mentioned. We've got all this event risk in the Middle East. Thanksgiving on Thursday, it's going to take a lot of liquidity out of the market. What do? Do you sit on the sidelines and wait this week?
I think a lot of investors are going to do precisely that. I mean, within Europe, there are two, I think, key events this week. One is the Eurozone finance ministers meeting, where the Greek bailout is top of the agenda. And then on Thursday, you've got Eurozone flash PMI for November, where the markets are expecting, the Eurozone economy still to be trundling along the bottom, but deep in recessionary territory.
Do you feel a little more heartened by what we've heard on the fiscal cliff over the weekend?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, John Boehner, who's the Speaker of the House, said that talks between himself, Nancy Pelosi, Tim Geithner et al. were constructive, quote unquote. And it's been a long time since we heard a Republican say that about their Democratic opponents. So yeah, there does seem to be a constructive dialogue going on at the moment. But it's a very long haul, and this is going to take weeks, if not months, to sort out.
Is that what most in the market are saying? You and your colleagues, we're looking 6 months down the road before we get anything on this?
Well, I think that they're probably looking to do something within, say, 3 months, because, of course, if nothing's agreed, then a lot of this is going to kick in automatically on January the 1st. There are a few accounting sleights of hand which might mitigate the impact. But no, this is not something they can keep rolling on into next summer. I think the thing about markets is if they can see there's light at the tunnel, then they're going to discount that. At the moment, there is very little clarity as to what the end game actually is, although, of course, everybody expects there to be a compromise.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Barack Obama becomes the first US president to visit Myanmar, formerly known as Burma. Reuters' Tara Joseph joins me now out of Hong Kong. Tara, just give us the brief first. Why is Obama there, and what's he saying?
Yeah, Axel, you may be asking, why is President Obama in Myanmar when there are bombs going off in the Middle East, literally? This is all about the pivot to Asia. He's with Hillary Clinton as well, who spent a lot of time in the region over the past 4 years building up relations. Many see it as a counter to China's growing influence as the Asian influence rises. So we had Obama's 6-hour whirlwind visit to Myanmar, which is strategically important. China is building a pipeline through Myanmar, which will allow it to access oil much more easily from the Middle East. And also, he's there to build relations for U.S. companies, which may want to be going into Myanmar as well. As you know, the U.S. has eased restrictions or sanctions on Myanmar, but not entirely. And Obama also expected to announce the resumption of U.S. aid to the country and also push for more political reform there in Myanmar. So that is what this visit is all about.
Okay. Tara, thanks very much indeed. Right, let's just wrap up some of the other business headlines for you this morning. After 9 months of twists and wrangling between Xstrata and its top shareholders, the merger Glencore deal is moving towards the finish line. Of victory for Glencore's boss, Ivan Glasenberg. The only hurdle now, the European Union's antitrust authority, with a decision due Thursday. Some investors had worried a decision to prolong the probe could scupper the deal, but that's now seen less likely. HSBC says it's in talks to sell its $9.3 billion stake in China's Ping An Insurance. The move steps up a program by Europe's biggest bank to shed non-core assets to boost profitability. That is it for this morning. I'll leave you with our pick of the day. Comes from Reuters photographer Robert Galbraith. The hat gives it away, I guess. McLaren Formula One driver Lewis Hamilton celebrates after winning the US Grand Prix in Austin, Texas. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.